Hey, what's up guys? BJ Dell back with episode 4 of the Let's Draw series. Today's video, the topic comes straight from the comment section on YouTube. I want to thank Ann for suggesting the topic of today's video, which is all about gestures. So I'm going to walk you through a cactus design and how to change gestures and give 3 distinct looks and personalities using pretty much the same design. Also in today's video, I'm going to walk you through all of my brush settings. A lot of people have asked for that. As always, I use the natural inker brush, which I'll put the link in the description, can be found on the Procreate forums, but I'll walk you through every single tab. So if that's something that you've been looking forward to, today's video is the place to find it. So keep watching. All right, so before we jump in to the full video today, the first thing I want to do is had a lot of people requesting to see my brush settings. As I've mentioned before, I use the natural inker brush, which the link is in the description. Found that on the Procreate forums, so you can go there, download that. But I know a lot of people have downloaded it and aren't getting the same results from it. So, as promised, here are my settings for the natural inker. Spacing I've got set to none. Streamlined, that changes from time to time. It'll be either none or up all the way when I want those smooth lines like I've shown you before. Jitter, none. Fall off, none. Down here, stroke taper. I've got the pressure taper amounts all the way over here. This one here is, it doesn't actually give an amount, but you can kind of see the amount there in the blue. Size, this is where the big one comes in. I've got the size cranked all the way up to 88%. That's going to give you the thicker lines, and then I control, you know, the actual brush size over here, but I have that set super high. Opacity set to none. Pressure is none. Tip is set to sharp, and tip animation is turned off. Go over here to shape. Scatter is set to none. Rotation is set to 0. The shape properties are both turned off, and the shape filtering is set to improved. Let's go over to grain. Movement is set all the way to left. Scale all the way to left at none. Zoom is all the way to left. Rotation is set at 0, and the grain filtering is set to improved. Dynamics is the next one. So I've just got normal brush rendering set. Speed is set to max. Jitter is set to none. Size dynamics. Speed is set to 0, and then jitter down here on size dynamics is set to none as well. Over here on the pencil side, Apple pencil pressure size is set to max. Opacity set to 0. Bleed is set to none. The angle of the tilt is set to 9 degrees. Opacity, gradation, bleed, and size are all set to none. And then size compression is turned on. General, stamp preview set to off. Previews 30%. Brush behavior, orient to screen is turned off. Classic taper is set on. Normal is the blend mode. Luminance blending is turned off. Smudge is set to none. Size limits set to 69.2. And this one here is set to none. And then source is just what it's set at when you download it. So that gives you an idea. Hopefully you can adjust those as you go through and you'll get somewhat similar results. Now, a lot of what the brush looks like on screen that you see is going to be because of these settings, but you'll also have to get just more practice with the pressure that you apply and just the movement of your wrist and your hand. And like I said, a lot of it comes from how hard you're pressing, and then especially with the taper, that letting up off the pressure. So it's just kind of trial and error, so play around with it and see what you get. So that's that. Hopefully you guys found that informative. I know a lot of people have been asking for that, so glad I could walk you through that. So for today's video, like I said, I'm going to be doing gestures. Had a couple comments about that. I know Ann was one of the first ones to suggest this, so thank you, Ann. I appreciate it. We'll go ahead, and I think one of the other things she said too is doing either a St. Patrick's Day design or something for Cinco de Mayo. So I kind of looked around and had some ideas in mind because I wanted something simple that's going to show you how powerful gestures are. And one of the designs I saw pops up a lot for Cinco de Mayo was a cactus. And that's the design I chose for today. And it'll become pretty clear why pretty fast. Just because the cactus is, in the pot. So all the gestures are going to come from the arms. So I'm going to show you here kind of what we can do with gestures, since you're a little bit limited with a cactus, because like I said, there's just those arms and you don't have the legs or anything else. That's going to kind of keep us a little focused and kind of show you exactly what can be achieved with not a lot to work with. So I'm just going to put in the basic shapes here for the pot and the cactus. So now if you want to use these center lines to kind of determine the flow of everything, you can. The first cactus I'm going to do, let's just make him kind of swinging his arms out. And this one's going to be kind of like a celebration. I'm happy, look at me type of thing. So that's going to give the look of that. Let's do kind of a happy mouth here. He's kind of smiling, not super crazy big, but enough. Do the tongue here and then pull the mouth down there. And then let's do the eyes here. Then you can kind of use the center line to judge, where the eyes are going to go. Might help you a little bit to get those spaced to where they need to be. Like I said before, with my sketches, I just go pretty loose on them. I worry about getting everything perfected in the inking process. I don't really worry too much about everything being 100% perfect. So let's do that, and then you got the little spiky cactus thorns coming off here. We'll just kind of work those in. All right, let's shrink this down just a little bit. Okay, so here you got a pretty basic cactus. You can tell he's pretty happy. He's excited. Just looks like he's having fun. Nothing too crazy. But let's go ahead and I'll show you some parts here. Since this arm is coming behind this side of the body, this is going to be the line for the body. You're going to leave that there, and this is going to come around like this. This side, since this is the other opposite side and is closer to you, this arm's going to be actually coming from the front of the body, so you want to make sure that that line is removed from there, so you've got the correct angles in there. So there we go. All right. So that's version 1 of the cactus. It's got I think a pretty good story with him. You can tell what's going on. So let's go ahead and duplicate this one. And then I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And then I'm going to just turn this opacity down on this one, because I want the same shape. I want the pot and everything in the exact same position. But only thing is going to change is the arms. And then with gestures too, the really important thing to keep in mind with gestures is to get those locked in, but you also want to adjust and change the expression on the face to match the gesture. So gestures can definitely tell a story, help you, draw in the viewer's interest, but you want to make sure that everything reads the same across the design, and make sure that that face is matching whatever the gesture is. So this one's a happy one that we drew first. So let's go ahead and let's draw maybe an angry one. So let's do these arms coming down, and they're going to be against the hips here. Kind of like he's a little upset and he's got something to say. Now, as you can see how I did these arms, since this one's hidden back behind this part of the body here, and this one's closer to you, you're going to be able to see like how this arm kind of curves in where the fold in the arm at the elbow comes in. So if you think the elbow's here, you're going to be able to see that part there. And then if you want to draw this side where the hand rests across or next to the body, and kind of flatten that out a little bit so it's wedged in there like that. So if you've got this angled, it's always going to look a little bit different from one side to the next. And that's another thing to keep in mind too with good designs and drawing interesting designs. Doing this kind of, side view is a little bit more interesting to the viewer than always drawing something straight on every time. There's certain times where that will, be required, but always adding just a little bit of perspective in your drawings is gonna kind of make it a little more interesting. So now he's gonna be angry, so I'm gonna drop these eyes down and we're gonna make them a little bit lower here on the body to give a little bit more of an angry look. Let's draw these little swoops underneath here. Put these pupils in here. And then once again, that expression is super important. So, just drawing this kind of annoyed, angry, frown look to it will kind of tell a story. And then same thing with eyebrows. You can get a lot of expression just off of eyebrows. So the way that those look will tell a lot in addition to the gesture itself and to the way that the eyes and the mouth are. Those eyebrows do a ton of heavy lifting for telling a story about your character. So fix that up. All right. So there we go. That's a second expression. So I'm going to turn off that back one. We'll duplicate this one. And then let's go ahead and turn the opacity down on this one because I want to keep that same general shape. Now, for this one, I'm going to show you how, using the same arm expression here, not always does, a hand on the hip mean that the character or the design is showing that they're mad. A lot of people put their hands on their hips for other reasons, so we're going to do that one here, and we're going to just kind of make him a little bit more energetic. So we're going to use the same body shape here. Let's go ahead and work the pot down here out. Of course, I saw a lot of the Cinco de Mayo designs have, a sombrero on them, so I would probably add that to the design. I'm just doing this one like this for, obviously, time's sake. I'm not going to draw the sombrero on every single one of these. So we had, in the first image, both the hands on the hips. So on this one instead, I'm going to throw kind of this arm up in the air. So it's kind of a combination of the first and the second design. First one being kind of like a happy one, the second one being upset, and this one's going to be more thinking about doing kind of a just jovial, he just heard the absolute funniest thing ever. So I'm going to move the eyes clear up here. So it's going to show he's almost tilted back and just heard probably the funniest joke he's ever heard in his life. And then same thing with the eyebrows here. Let's pop those up here. I'm almost gonna throw in like some tears coming out where he's laughing so hard he's crying. And then we're gonna go super, super huge on the mouth just to give that impression that he is just going crazy with his laughter. Teeth in there. Oops. Pull this down so you can see by exaggerating that mouth, by putting those eyes further back, it makes it look like the entire head is tilted. And I'm gonna kind of adjust this mouth. It almost needs to go over a little bit further this way. There we go. That there, and then couple little spittles coming out there. So, all right. So there we go. We've got basically 3 different ones now. Let's go ahead and turn the opacity up on all these. And I'll flip back and forth through each of them so you can kind of see. All right. So there we've got the first just happy-go-lucky, cute. Here we've got an angry cactus. He's got the hands on the hips. Obviously, something happened that he's not too happy about. And then the last one is just I heard the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life cactus. Out of all these designs, I personally kind of like this one the best. So let's go ahead and use this one to finish up the process. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the opacity then of this one. Go back to my black for the inks. Kind of start inking. So like I said, this one is a super easy, quick design just to save time. There's so much more that can be done with gestures, which I might get into on a longer format video. The rest of the body, and especially, you know, the way that the stance is with the legs, you can also use that pretty heavy to do gestures. I just wanted to show you with this, you know, how much you can do with really not a lot to work with. You know, a cactus is pretty stationary with being in the pot, but you can actually get some really cool gestures just by switching little stuff here and there. And like I said, just don't forget, even though you're, you know, focusing on gestures, the facial expression and the eyebrows and the eyes and everything like that, that's going to be a huge part of getting successful gestures down. So don't forget that. Don't skimp on that part. It is still very important. And I'll probably do another video to where, you know, I do an entire one all about facial expressions, and we'll walk through the same character and maybe do, you know, 10, 15 different expressions real quick with the same character. Kind of giving you the basics of each common emotion or reaction that you can use. Like I said, we're just doing this fairly quick. Usually on my designs and stuff I provide clients take longer, but I just really want to give you guys the basics and not have these draw out too long. I am picky about this one though, so maybe I'm taking too much time on that. And you'll see sometimes too, I won't get that taper just right, but if I like the overall line, I'll just go back in here and, you know, erase it by hand to give it the taper that I wanted in the first place. So that's sometimes easier to do if you've got the line down than trying to get that perfect line. So just keep going. And I want to thank everybody for the comments. They've really helped me know what you guys like and what you want to see next, so I appreciate that. I know a lot of people have asked in the comments for me to cover Affinity Designer, and I'm starting to work out kind of a quote-unquote curriculum or idea for that. So that is in the works. It's going to take a while, though. Affinity Designer, with just the menus alone, there's so much more to do, so I need to see you know, exactly how I want to do it. I don't know if it's going to be a series almost, because there is so much to cover. I think if I try to cram it all into one, it's not going to be all that informative, because there's just going to be an overload of information. So thinking about maybe doing a couple different videos with that, and then of course doing some videos just like this to where I don't explain every single menu option. I'm just going to walk you through, you know, a live design and just kind of explain the menu options that I'm using as I do it. So that's a possibility as well. So but yeah, Affinity Designer, it's really a cool program. If you haven't got it yet, definitely check it out. That one's what, $19.99 on the App Store, so a little bit more expensive than anything else, but I mean, for what you're getting in the options and everything, it's definitely worth the money. It's a really, really robust program, so you do get what you pay for sure. Made the eyes a little bit too thick, so I'm going to pull that back down a little bit there. Especially with designs like this, always think about your audience, who it's intended for, who it's catering to. My stuff tends to be, you know, on the super cute side, which I'll usually play around with the expression and, you know, how the eyes look to get it just that perfect amount of cute to really stand out. So that's always something to think about too. If it is geared, you know, for a different audience, you might not want to go as cute and want to just kind of play around with the different looks that you can get out of it. So always keep that in mind. It's important to know who you are marketing to. So it's always important in client work too, is to get that kind of worked out ahead of time. So you're on the right page and the same page, and you don't waste a lot of time on revisions and back and forths. That always is kind of a waste for both parties. So keep that in mind if you are doing client work. Always ask them ahead of time, you know, who do you envision that this is going to buy this? Who is it for? Get some more of these in here. You'll see some of these little prickly parts I'll put over, and then some of them aren't going to cross that line. So those are going to be the ones that are on that back side that are just longer, that are sticking through. So you kind of want a mixture of both of those. And of course, the one that's not that's you know, not coming over this line, you always want that one to be shorter because that one's on that back side. So these are just kind of just all over. No real rhyme or reason. You don't want to get too many, but just enough that they're there and serving their purpose, I guess. So that's good there. Let's go ahead and work on this pot now. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to put this. Well, the pot, I don't know if I want it perfect or kind of want it, I kind of want it like that, just to keep that loose feel to it. Everything doesn't have to be realistic when you're doing cartoon stuff like this, and you kind of add these fun little flares here that add some shape to the design and make it a little bit more interesting. All right. But these lines here need to be basically to where they would line up if they went all the way across. So I do want to fix that real quick. All right, there we go. So the lines are done. Let's go ahead and combine these layers. I'm going to drop out the sketch layer, make a new layer underneath the lines, and then I'm going to set that top inking layer to reference. That way I can just drag and drop my colors into here. So, and do that. This one's going to be fairly easy because there's not a lot to it. Oops. Pink for the tongue. Oh, I didn't have the tongue completely touching over here, so that's why I can't use that to fill. So let's do that. And then I'm going to get a little bit darker of this color and throw that in there. All right. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and change the color of the lines to a darker green to kind of bring down that stark contrast. So we talked about that before. So I'm just going to go down here, go back up to the lines layer and select that, and then click it again and just hit fill layer. Don't really think it's dark enough in here though. You see that looks really weird, so let's go a little bit darker. That's going to be almost black, but not quite. So there we go. You can tell that, here, I'll pull up a black. So you can tell the difference here. It's almost black, but next to black you can tell it's not. So we're going to leave it like that. I kind of like that. All right, we're going to go back here and add a new layer, and then start throwing in the shadows first. So I think I want the light coming in this way. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to drop the opacity now on my shadow layer. There we go. And then, like I said in my previous videos, I kind of like to just remove a little bit of the shadow. If it's on a section like this, which is totally 100% filled, I want the viewer's eye to see, even if they don't necessarily think about it or notice it, I want this to be obviously two different colors. So I'll just do an erasing of part of the shadow along that outer edge. Doesn't necessarily tie into how the shadows would work in real life. It's just something that I do to make it a little bit more visually interesting. So we got that, and then let's go ahead and do the teeth here. I'm not going to add a whole lot of shadows to this one to kind of save on time. We'll go kind of basic on it, but just to give you an idea. Like I said before in the video too, I always like to add this shadow between the eyes and the eyebrows. Always gives a nice look to it there. And I think I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit of the shadow. It looks a little too dark. There we go. Let's go ahead and hit this one down here. Oops. Wrong one. Hit the side of this pot coming down. Like I said, I just kind of follow, like on this, the angles of the lines, so you keep the shadows going along with the lines that are already there. Makes everything all kind of match up and look nice and natural. There we go. One more down here. Do one shadow here of this arm, cast shadow that gives off. All right, that's pretty much done there. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back to the white color, add another layer, and add in some highlights real quick. The same thing, I'll just go around this outer edge. Light's coming in from this way, so this top edge is going to be the one to get the most highlights. I'm giving a nice taper there at the end. And the same thing down here around this top arm too. I want to keep that curve in there the same way that it's set, so looks natural. And then go back up to my opacity, drop that down so we just have a slight glow there. And then probably do this here. And then I've got to doing those tiers. Let's go back here and I'll just hit those with this little blue real quick. And the last thing I see, I want to do a little bit of a shadow on this tongue on the far side here. All right. And then one more shadow down here. And that's pretty much it. I'll usually add a few little dots on stuff like this with the plant just because of the texture it's made out of. So just add a little bit of interest to that. There we go. I'll walk you back through one more time so you can see what this all looks like. We've got the finished colored version, which was this one here. That's the laughing, just hysterically cactus. We have the upset cactus, and then we have just the happy-go-lucky cactus. But as you can see from the walkthrough, it's the exact same cactus, exact same pot. All we did was change the position of the arms and then the expression on the face, and we came up with 3 completely different versions of the same drawing. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it, and hit that bell for when I post new videos. You will be notified right away. As far as new videos, I'll be posting those every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday going forward. Also, if you haven't yet, hop on over to Facebook, join the Facebook group. It's called Keep Creating, a Learn, Draw, Share Art Community. I started that on Facebook to give everybody a place where they can share their drawings that they're doing based on the videos. I want to see what you guys are doing. And every Wednesday on YouTube, I'm going to be doing a critique session of some of your designs, and I'm actually going to be pulling those from the Facebook group. So make sure you join and post your designs on there. So as for me, I can be found online, bjdell.com, and on Instagram and Twitter at bjdell. So until next time, keep creating.